Hey everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. Today, I'm going to show you how to use the simulation zone in geometry nodes to create a particle generator. But before we jump in, I want to give a quick shout out to Cartesian Caramel. I learned how to set this up by watching his live stream tutorials, so definitely check out his videos. You can pick up a ton of great tips from him. Alright, let's get started. First, we need to bring back the default cube we deleted earlier then. Let's split the viewport and open the Geometry Nodes tab. With the cube selected, go ahead and add a new node tree. We won't be using the geometry input node this time because we're going to add a Bezier circle instead. This will help us define the motion of the particles. So let's add a circle in the viewport and drag it into the Geometry Nodes tab. Next, add a Trim Curve node. We'll use this later to animate the circle and give the particles an extra velocity boost at the start. Now, we need to turn the curve into points, and for that, we'll use a Curve to Points node. Right after that, add a Set Point Radius node to adjust the particle size. Time for the fun part, the simulation zone. First, we need to store a few parameters, starting with velocity. Essentially, we're setting the direction the points will follow as they move. For now, plug the normal output into the value of our attribute and then bring it into the simulation zone. Inside the simulation zone, we now have our velocity attribute, and we're adding a value to the z-axis. Finally, add a set position node and plug in the named attribute into the offset. This tells Blender to adjust the particle positions based on the velocity we just set up. With a vector math node set to scale, we can control the velocity and adjust how fast the particles move. Right now, if we look at the top view, we can see that the particles are following their normals, plus the extra movement we added along the z-axis. Instead, we want them to move along the tangent, a line that touches the circle at just one point. This will already create a slight rotation effect, making the motion feel more dynamic. To make things even more interesting, we'll use a simple but effective setup: a scene time node, a random value node, a math node set to multiply to control how fast the seed changes, Finally, we can add another vector math node also set to scale for even more control over the animation. And that's it. With this setup, we get a much more natural and dynamic particle motion. Let's keep tweaking and see how far we can push it. Now, let's set up a threshold to control where our particles will appear. To do this, duplicate the store-named attribute node and place it after the set position node. Then, reset it by hovering over it and pressing backspace. Now, we'll create a new attribute and call it Life. To set its value, we need a math node, a named attribute node. Next, let's make the life attribute actually do something by adding a delete geometry node. We'll connect a compare node, set to greater than, and plug in our named attribute. This compare node acts as a threshold. Once the particles reach the value we set, they'll disappear. Right now, the particles aren't spawning yet. Just add a join geometry node right after the simulation input and connect the set point radius node to it. That should do the trick. To make the animation even more dynamic, we can animate the trim curve node and even tweak the Bezier circle itself. For the final touch, let's create a super simple yet effective material, a two-color gradient where the colors shift based on position. We'll use a geometry node, a separate XYZ node, and a color ramp. That's it. Quick, simple, and it adds a nice visual effect. Wrapping up, I hope you found this tutorial helpful. As I mentioned earlier, shout out to Cartesian Caramel. I'll drop a link to one of his videos on this setup in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.